Hello everyone, my name is Manuel Hafner and I will present you today what you should know about Daily Scrum. A quick hint at this point, this training is available in English and German. This will be our today's agenda board. Our goal is that at the end we finished all increments we see on the left side. Let's start with the basics. Here we see a rough estimate of the financial costs of a daily Scrum. If 10 developers, who cost the company €70 per working hour, meet for 15 minutes, then there are costs of €175 per event. It costs €3,675 per month and €44,100 per year. Let us also look at the time spent. 10 developers who meet for 15 minutes spend 150 minutes per event. With 5 working days, that is 12.5 hours per working week. With 250 working days, one comes to an investment of 625 hours or 26 days per year. The consequences: letting many people wait for late participants or exceeding the 15-minute limit is expensive. Those who do not arrive on time have to talk at the end or cannot talk when there is no time left. Due to the short time, it is therefore important to get to the point and avoid storytelling. During this training and the explanations of the Daily Scrum, we will see that the value of a Daily Scrum is higher than avoiding it. So what is the purpose of Daily Scrum? Members of the Scrum team exchange their status on issues they are working inside a sprint. The whole team gets an overview of the current state of the work. The team inspects the progress toward the sprint goal and adapts the sprint backlog as necessary, adjusting the upcoming planned work. Furthermore, it improves communications, identify impediments, promote quick decision-making, and consequently eliminate the need for other meetings. At the end, it creates focus and improves self-management. The Daily Scrum isn't a status update to management or stakeholders. Although it is sometimes referred to as a type of status event, the structure of the event is meant to promote follow-up conversation, as well as to identify issues before they become too problematic. The practice also promotes closer working relationships in its frequency, need for follow-up conversations, and short structure, which in turn results in a higher rate of knowledge. It is time for your first question. You have 15 seconds to answer the following question. What isn't the purpose of the Daily Scrum? Time is over. The right answer is number 3. Full traceability about my work. Let us talk about teamwork. Share understanding of goals. A team where each team member is working toward different goals tends to be ineffective. Coordinate efforts. If the work doesn't need to be coordinated, you don't need a team. Poor coordination amongst team members tends to lead to poor outcomes. Share problems and improvements. One of the primary benefits of a team versus working alone is that team members can help each other when someone encounters a problem or discovers a better way of doing something. A team where team members are not comfortable sharing problems and/or do not help each other tends to be ineffective. Identify as a team. It is very difficult to psychologically identify with a group if there is no regular engagement with the group. Group members will not develop a strong sense of relatedness even if they believe them to be capable and pursuing the same goals. Continuity. Daily Scrum is done every day at the same time within a short period. Usually, it is time boxed to between 5 and 15 minutes. To reduce complexity, it isn't only held at the same time, also it takes place every working day of the sprint. If some team members are missing, the event isn't postponed. If the Scrum Master isn't present, team members will take over. No detailed discussions should happen during the daily Scrum. Once the event ends, individual members can get together to discuss issues in detail. Such an event is sometimes known as a breakout session or an after party. Everyone is keen to keep within the 15-minute limit. With larger teams and many questions, the limit can quickly become tight. Among other measures, which will be addressed in the course of this training, there is one simple tool that has many advantages. Let's take a look at the backlog on the left. The sprint has started and most people have assigned themselves more than one task, here circled in red. During the daily Scrum, it is now difficult to find the issues of each person on which he or she is actively working. Furthermore, there is the danger that someone feels pressured to multitask. An improvement can only be achieved if the sprint backlog is sorted by person. For example, all issues of one person are among themselves. The disadvantage is that the priority given by the product owner is no longer given. Another disadvantage could be that work is done first on easier issues that can be completed more quickly instead of those with the highest priority and the most value for the sprint goal. If we look at the sprint statistics in the top right of the picture, we see that 10 story points are in progress and 0 haven't been started. so we don't know how many issues have actually not been started. With regard to the end of the sprint, it could lead to us noticing too late that something is wrong. Well, how could we avoid all these disadvantages? One possible and proven solution is to have a rule that everyone only works on a single issue at a time. In case where one issue is blocked, it is of course allowed to start working on the next one. However, issues may not be started in order to secure them for oneself, so that no one else snatches them away. In this way, everyone works on their issue with more focus, avoids multitasking, and can deliver faster. In software development, due to its intellectual complexity, avoiding multitasking could even bring qualitative improvements as fewer programming errors happen. Another advantage arises in the case where issues are not assigned to anyone, as everyone moves at different speeds. Those who were able to complete their work earlier grab the next free issue in the top-down priority. This avoids unnecessary delays and saves time for coordination when working top-down, which can then flow into other more important topics. Of course, this is also an advantage when colleagues are sick or on holiday, because the issues are not reserved, and it is therefore clear to everyone that anyone who is looking for new work can work on an unassigned issue. We can see that each of the 5 colleagues is working on something, and that 5 issues still need to be worked on before the end of the sprint. What is a burn-down chart? A burn-down chart shows the amount of work that has been completed in an epoch or sprint and the total work remaining. Burn-down charts are used to predict your team's likelihood of completing their work in the time available. They are also great for keeping the team aware of any scope creep that occurs. Burn-down charts are useful because they provide insight into how the team works. For example, if you notice that the team consistently finishes work early, this might be a sign that they aren't committing to enough work during sprint planning. If they consistently miss their forecast, this might be a sign that they have committed to too much work. If the burn-down chart shows a sharp drop during the sprint, this might be a sign that work has not been estimated accurately or broken down properly. Track team progress. By tracking the remaining work throughout the sprint, a team can manage its progress and respond to trends accordingly. For example, if the burn-down chart shows that the team may not reach the sprint goal, then they can take the necessary actions to stay on track. And here I will explain to you what is a burn-down chart. We start with number 1. Estimation statistic. The vertical axis represents the estimation statistic selected. Number 2. Remaining values. The red line represents the total amount of work left in the sprint, according to your team's estimates. If this line is above the projected ideal, it means work was completed slower than projected. If the line is below, the work was completed faster. Number 3. Guideline. The gray line is a projected ideal for the work completion. It shows what it would look like if you had a Scrum team of robots who worked through tasks at a perfectly consistent rate. During the sprint, the burn down chart is a very great way to get a snapshot of your progress. It can be used to detect any problems or underperformance early on, giving plenty of time for course correction before the deadline. After the sprint, the burn down chart becomes a fantastic tool for the retrospective. Any conversations about successes and failures are enriched by the burn down chart, which offers an easy to understand summary of the entire sprint. It's all very well and good to sit around a table after every sprint to discuss performance in vague terms. But in order to really achieve the iterative improvement intended by the Scrum process, metrics like the burn down chart are necessity. By tracking and comparing the data of past iterations, the Scrum team can refine their approach to work in a meaningful, quantifiable fashion. Let's take a look at the event types. Which different kind of event types do you know? A stand-up event, or simply stand-up, is an event in which attendees typically participate while standing. The discomfort of standing for long periods is intended to keep the events short and to the point. The daily plank event is an intensified form of this event. Online events are an alternative to the previous concepts, where you work with a virtual team. A virtual team usually refers to a group of individuals who work together from different geographic locations and rely on communication technology. Synonyms for virtual team are geographically dispersed team, distributed team, or remote team. People outside the Scrum team wish to know and/or contribute to the status and progress of the project. Communicating status in multiple events and reports requires a lot of duplicate effort. Anyone who is directly involved in or wants to know about the day-to-day operation of the project should attend the single daily stand-up event. People not directly involved can disrupt the stand-up if they are unclear about what is expected behavior. This may be addressed by simply informing new participants and observers of expected norms beforehand. Not all forms of reporting will be, nor should be, covered by the stand-up format. For example, overall project progress would be better communicated with a big visible chart such as a burn down, burn up, cumulative flow diagram, etc. What kind of colleagues, groups, and departments come to your mind which can possibly attend? Now we're done with the basics. Let's talk about token. The order to talk in. The Scrum Guide from 2020 says the following regarding structure and techniques. The developers can select whatever structure and techniques they want, as long as their daily Scrum focuses on progress toward the sprint goal and produces an actionable plan for the next day of work. Let us see what kind of techniques we can use. Last arrival speaks first. Encourages and motivates people to be punctual about showing up for the daily Scrum. Likely, this person is the least prepared. Round robin. To know whose turn is next, round robin can be used. For instance, clockwise or counterclockwise. Risk of ignore previous speakers and tendency to think of other things rather than pay attention. Pass the token. This is an unpredictable ordering mechanism where a speaking token is tossed. Token can be a ball, plush toys, or anything else. Disadvantage is that in larger teams it becomes difficult to remember who has already spoken. Take a card. On arrival, each team member takes a card from a stack. Each card has a number on it, which then tells the order to speak in. Walk the board. It means walking through each work item on task board or story wall by moving cards across the board. Alphanumeric random. Alphabetically by first or last name, or sorted by numbers assigned for each developer, or random in the order in which the online event was joined. Per domain. You can exercise your daily Scrum by grouping people into domains and go through them by one of the previous mentioned points. In computer networking, you might have heard about tokens from network topology like token ring. Token ring uses a special 3-byte frame called a token that is passed around a logical ring of workstations or servers. This token passing is a channel access method providing fair access for all stations and eliminating the collisions of contention-based access methods. Synonym for contention can be conflict. So again, by using a token, communication is fair for all participants and conflicts are avoided. Ask yourself, how does the person with next turn know when you are done sharing your status? Spoken token. Indicate with common phrases that your turn ends right now. Which spoken token do you know? Here is an incomplete list of spoken token phrases. or throw a token. A good token to throw is something small, lightweight, with smooth or fluffy surface which can easily be handed over. Which token can you throw to each other? Here some examples: rubber duck, rubber band ball, beach ball, plush toy. Digital token could be, for example, the listing of names in a chat client. It's time for the next question. Again, you have 15 seconds to answer the following question. Which item is a good token to throw? Time's over. The right answer is number 3, paper ball. If you throw pocket knife or a stone to somebody, you might hurt them. Throwing a real duck is far from being practical. We are done with the topic token. Let's go to do's and don'ts. In virtual events, it is essential to keep radio discipline. So when it's your turn or you want to raise a question, unmute yourself. Otherwise, keep your microphone muted. A noisy old or cheap microphone, music or people talking in the background, sudden phone rings, doorbells, and animal sounds distract every participant. Likely, there is a loss on information as the focus changes to something irrelevant. The potato with the blue cap is the Scrum Master in a cartoon series. If you like, you can now pause the video and get some coffee. We will see again in a moment. Things to avoid. What should be avoided when one gives one's status? Here are some examples. Justification. When it is finally your turn, you might feel exposed. Several reasons are possible. Be honest to yourself and tell the others about it. So instead of fixing a tough and challenging bug, you were more in the mood to update the project its documentation? Fine. You contributed something to the project, where people will benefit from it. Unnecessary information. Mentioning the amount of events and meetings since last Daily Scrum is unnecessary. This information doesn't give a valuable contribution to the rest of the team. Probably it is more about expressing how annoyed you are. Things which didn't work well must be discussed during the retrospective. The purpose of events and meetings isn't to stop or slow down our work. Actually, we do those events and meetings to check with others our or their work and learn from each other. This adds value to what we are doing and help us to do our tasks. If several team members participated in the same event or meeting, the benefit of this information is small if people say only, "I attended too." How about If you say something like, "In yesterday's event on subject ABC, I have coordinated my work with my colleagues," or "Tool XYZ was explained to us," your team members which didn't participate hear this, and maybe they find this information so useful that they will ask you later for more details. Unconstructive criticism. This is the classic par excellence. Yet we humans tend to criticize unconstructively. No question. It benefits no one and affects our emotional life. Semi-information. You did a great job on this particular issue, but once spotlight is on you, all you say is that your work is on an issue with any number. Do the following calculation. What is your team size? Now subtract all team members which don't work together with you on this issue. Is your result a very small number in comparison to team size? Most likely this is the case. So don't expect that beside you and a few know what you are talking about. Mention your tasks by name is more pleasant than people start to search for the number on the screen to understand the context of what will be said. By doing so, their attention isn't lowered. The response on given status of the person whose turn it is can be split in two categories: offline and online conversations. What must you take to offline discussions? Here some ideas. Problem solving. Right after hearing a problem, some people tend to engage on solving the issue. Long discussion. This is almost self-explaining in general, and there is no common understanding on when a discussion becomes long. Possibly tend to distract people which aren't directly related on discussion. No topic for everyone. People attend with different roles, with different tasks on their shoulders, which are affected by different interests. Not directly related discussion also tends to distraction. This can be a problem for a non-cross-functional team where people tend to be interested into their domain only. Uncomfortable interruption. Some people may find it uncomfortable to enforce the structure of the stand-up by interrupting, as they have to stand for a longer time or have not had their turn because the 15 minutes are over. Off topic. Once a lively discussion starts, there is the potential of jumping from one topic to another, losing the relation to the origin. The further discussion moves away from the origin, there is the risk of decreasing relevance. What should, if not must, you take online? Clarifying question. Information that is not understood is not useful. Therefore, short question and in return A short answer can help to clarify what has been shared instead of leaving the event confused. The extent upon which clarifying questions are allowed depends on how large the team is and whether it will impact the set time limit of 15 minutes. The time spent on a clarifying question and answer should not exceed 1 to 2 minutes. That was about the do's and the don'ts. Let's see what's up with the 3 questions. Today, I will show you 2 possible variants on how to structure your daily Scrum. Now, the first variant. You can go through the daily per person. What has proved helpful is to ask yourself 3 questions. Why must have is strike through? The answer is easy. The focus in the daily Scrum is not on the people, it is work items on Scrum board. Attendees explain those work items, not themselves. There is no sense of obligation to say anything that is not relevant to progress, the work. Because of the clearer focus on work items, it is more likely for people to raise and sign up to remove obstacles without prompting. The lack of obligation to speak may hide problems with people who are shy or otherwise not inclined to say anything. Synonym for obligation is responsibility. For inclined, it's willing. Let us see what is behind those 3 questions. Yesterday, what have you achieved since the last Daily Scrum? This question points to what happened in the recent past. Today, what would you like to achieve by the next Daily Scrum? This question points to what will happen in near future. And the last one, impediment, here symbolized as no through road traffic sign. What is in your way? Or you can also ask, what impedes you? This question points to unresolved problems now, or in other words, keep you from being productive. A synonym for impediment is obstacle. How does your diary look like? Which order of those 3 questions make sense to you? The order shown is logical, because of the course of time, to start with yesterday and then today. In other words, you say where you've come from and where are you heading toward. If needed, mention impediments. That is how I see it, and on the next slide you will hear another concept. Writing a diary isn't something mentioned in the Scrum guides. It is mentioned here as a helpful tool. Here now some hints. After every sprint goal related task you have done, Make a note somewhere. Structure your notes in a logical order. Your notes support you to not forget what to say or stumble. By this, and the structure behind, your team members can follow your status much better. Another topic. Even if it is not directly related to your sprint goal, it has on the other side an impact on your team's goals. You cannot expect your team members checking your calendar frequently for holidays, parental leave, maternity leave, special leave, or other odd absences you plan to do. As you depend on your team members in some cases, they do too. If you let them know during the daily scrum that you will leave earlier today or won't come tomorrow, you will give them a last chance to talk to you. This can prevent them of stuck on something they can solve only with you. Here is your next question. You have 15 seconds. Question to answer in the Daily Scrum. Time is over. The right answer is number 1. Impediment, today, yesterday. Structure and techniques per item. Here in the column you see PBI. This is the abbreviation of product backlog item. It is often considered as user story. The second variant focuses on the user story with the highest priority for the current sprint. Usually, the priority is sorted in descending order. As you can see on this sprint backlog given, the first story is done. Developers started with the second story top-down, and the story at the bottom is yet untouched. Going through the user stories, the following questions in this order can be asked. First, what happened to move this story closer to done yesterday? Second, what impediments are keeping this story from getting done? Third, what are we going to do to get this story done or closer to done today? Those who worked on it will answer. Others, now knowing more about the state of the story and what is needed to get it done, may also offer to contribute. Move to the next highest priority story and repeat. Continue until you reach stories that are not started and won't be started today. This approach gets the team focused on the most important stories first. It emphasizes collaborating to get things done over reporting individual status. And it treats yesterday's progress and impediments as data to inform today's plan, which the team generates together. That was all about the 3 questions. Now we take a closer look on impediments. Impediment categories. Impediments can be categorized into local and global impediments. Local impediments consists of subcategories personal and team impediments. Personal impediments affect a single person. Team impediments affect the whole Scrum team. Global impediments means inside a company the organizational impediments. Organizational impediments affect the Scrum team and some other departments or the whole company. Can you name some local impediments? Here are some examples. Unmet human potential means the waste of not using or fostering people's skills and abilities to their full potential. A synonym of fostering is promoting. Can you name some global impediments? Here are some examples. Impediments examples. Definition: anything that slows down, distracts, interrupts the team or a team member while performing activities aiming to reach the sprint goal. Difficulties in raising impediments. What could be possible difficulties in this case? Here are some examples. Unable to or late realization of something as an impediment. This could mean that someone is convinced about what needs to be done and optimistic that it is possible to finish. Fabric of culture of team members. There are different fabrics in our clothes with different attributes. Think about wool, polyester, cotton, and so on. So is it also with humans. There is a diversity of opinions and experiences, strong and weak personalities, extrovert and introvert types. Some are transparent and others are opaque. Fear of being perceived as ineffective, incompetent. Could be a person who doesn't want to lose his/her face in front of others, losing respect and credit from colleagues. Play down the issue. It is like someone saying, "Working on it, no need to discuss." Behavior issue. There is a huge variety to describe it. Some people might be too proud to admit that they can't solve it themselves. Ignorance by purpose or work around instead of taking care of the root cause. Too shy to ask for help. Overestimate oneself skills. Egoistic way of thinking like, I don't want others to learn from this impediment. knowledge has to stay with me. Impediment is not serious enough. Underestimation of the severity and priority. Lack of help culture in the team. For instance, there were situations in the past where people saw someone struggling, but no one helped. People like to help, but instead of guidance, teaching, and advisory, they take the impediment over. Conflicts between team members. Tracking of impediments. Usually, impediments are captured by the Scrum Master on Team's impediment board. Impediment board. An impediment board visualizes and orders impediments. An advantage is the simplicity of visualization and access of the information. The board can consist of 3 or 4 columns. The column "Identified problems" is optional, as identified impediments can skip to column "To be solved". Identified problems can be seen as a collection of unsorted and non-prioritized impediments. Impediment impact diagram. Explicit stakeholder visualization. Another board to visualize impediments can be seen here. The horizontal axis represents the level of influence needed to remove the impediment. The board can include the duration, here horizontal, the relative length of time to resolve an impediment. Also, the relative risk can be considered, here vertically. The column on the right-hand side, "Needs external help to solve", could be split into project program, business unit portfolio, and the company and beyond. These groups could also consider a wider group of specific stakeholders. For example, Team XYZ, HR, Finance, Sales, or Leadership team. Impediment impact diagram. Interpreting the diagram. If we fill in the board we saw one slide before, it will look like this. The impediments are arranged on sticky notes. One sticky note per impediment. Sticky notes can have different color to categorize the impediments: people, process, program, tools, and environment. Analysis of the example board. The impediments represented by the stickies numbered 1 through 6 can all be resolved within the team or group. The team or group need help from outside to resolve the impediments represented by the stickies numbered 7 through 11. The impediments represented by stickies 1, 2, 10, and 11 have a comparatively higher impact on the team than the others. Prioritizing. It makes sense to remove the sticky note 1 first, as it has a high impact and it is expected to consume less time. but there are factors which can influence teams' decision like low on team capacity. In the meantime, the issues 7 to 11 could be worked on, as they don't impact team's capacity. Availability of someone within the team with specific knowledge or skills. If the specialist isn't available, it makes sense to work on something else for now. Relative benefit of removing sticky note 1 versus sticky notes 10 or 11. Next question. Again, 15 seconds. Which are not columns of a sprint board? Time is over. The right answer is number 4. To be done, almost in progress, on hold. So, we are done with the topic of impediments. That is the end of this training, but there is still one question to answer. This is the last question for this training. During the coffee break, you saw a cartoon picture. What are the figures in it made of? Time is over. The right answer is number 3, potatoes.